She made fun of Donald Trump on air. His unexpected response left everyone speechless. So that night, Emily made a decision she thought would change everything. And it did. She opened her show with a roast of President Donald Trump. It was meant to be lighthearted, a satirical monologue poking fun at his speeches, his tweets, his larger-than-life personality. The audience loved it. Every punchline hit. Every pause drew louder laughter. Even her crew couldn't hold back their grins behind the cameras. As the show ended, Emily felt something she hadn't felt in months: relevance. The crowd cheered. Social media exploded, and within hours, her face and jokes were everywhere. Clips of her monologue went viral on TikTok, Instagram, and late-night talk show compilations. Headlines read, "Emily Carter takes down Trump. The internet can't stop laughing." For a brief, shining moment, she was at the top again. But fame, as Emily soon learned, doesn't always come with applause. By morning, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At first, she assumed it was good news: congratulations, praise, interview requests. But when she opened her messages, her heart dropped. Her notifications were filled not with laughter, but anger. Thousands of messages flooded in, hate comments, insults, even death threats. Some called her brave, others called her disgusting. By noon, hashtags were trending, some praising her, others demanding her show be canceled. Within a week, sponsors pulled out. Advertisers backed away quietly. And one cold Friday evening, her producer called and said the words she'd been dreading: Emily. The networks decided to end the show. In a single night, Emily Carter went from a rising star to a public punching bag. After the cancellation, Emily tried to bounce back. She told herself it was just a rough patch, that talented people always rise again. She launched a podcast from her tiny apartment, recording episodes at her kitchen table with a cheap microphone. She talked about pop culture, comedy, and even the hard truth about being canceled. But no matter how much she tried to move forward, the internet kept dragging her back. Every post she made was haunted by that same video, the night she roasted President Donald Trump. Trolls reposted it under every clip she uploaded. The comment sections were filled with sneers and mockery. Arrogant, unfunny, desperate. It didn't matter what she said or how much she apologized. The internet never forgets. Emily tried guest appearances on smaller shows, but even there she could feel the tension in the room. The hosts would smile politely, but their eyes said it all. Isn't she the one who mocked Trump? Even comedy clubs stopped booking her. Her once bright reputation had turned radioactive. Months dragged into a year. Her savings slowly evaporated. She sold her car, canceled her gym membership, and started skipping meals just to save a few dollars. The city that once adored her now felt cold and lonely. She'd stare at the walls of her downsized apartment at night, replaying that fateful monologue in her head, wishing she could take it all back, or at least do it differently. Her phone, once buzzing with opportunity, went silent. She stopped answering her agent's calls out of shame. She couldn't face another maybe next time. Behind closed doors, Emily battled with depression and doubt. The laughter that once defined her now felt like a cruel memory. And then, one cold winter morning, her email notification chimed. She almost ignored it. Another spam message, she thought. But when she glanced at the sender's name, her heart skipped a beat. Donald J. Trump. At first, she laughed. "Yeah, right," she muttered, probably a prank. But then she opened it. The message was real, short, direct, and shockingly calm. "Saw what happened after your show. You've got guts. Let's talk." Donald J. Trump. Emily froze, staring at the screen. Her mind raced. Why would he reach out to her? The woman who mocked him in front of millions? She didn't know it yet, but that email was about to change everything. A week later, Emily Carter found herself sitting in the marble lobby of a Manhattan skyscraper, hands trembling as she clutched her coffee. She kept glancing at the clock, half convinced this was all a cruel prank. The email had seemed real. But this? Sitting here waiting to meet President Donald Trump, the man she had mocked on live television? It felt unreal. Every tick of the clock echoed louder in her head. She rehearsed what she'd say if he showed up. Maybe an apology, maybe a joke to lighten the mood. But deep down, she was terrified. What if he wanted to humiliate her? What if this was payback? And then, with a soft ding, the elevator doors opened. Donald Trump stepped out, confident, composed, and unmistakably himself. His presence filled the lobby like a wave of energy. He walked straight toward her, hand extended, that signature smile on his face. "You've got talent, kid," he said in his deep, steady voice. "But you let the crowd control you. Never let them smell fear." Emily blinked, speechless. That wasn't what she expected. No lecture, no sarcasm, just a firm handshake and advice? Trump motioned for her to sit, and for the next 20 minutes, he talked to her not as a critic, not even as a celebrity, but as someone who understood. He told her how, for years, he had been mocked, ridiculed, and misquoted by the media. How he learned that no matter what you say or do, some people will always twist your words. "The world," he said, leaning forward, "loves to see people fall. It makes them feel powerful. But real winners? They stand back up, even when no one's cheering." Emily listened in stunned silence. The man she thought she understood, the one she'd roasted for laughs, was now sitting across from her, offering something she hadn't felt in months: empathy. Trump didn't offer her a job, money, or even forgiveness. What he offered was far more valuable: perspective. When Emily finally walked out of that building, the city air felt different. The weight on her chest had lifted. For the first time in months, she wasn't angry. She wasn't afraid. She was inspired. Emily took President Donald Trump's words to heart. That meeting had changed something deep inside her, not just her outlook, but her courage. For months, she had been running from her past, terrified that every step forward would lead her right back to the night that destroyed her career. But now she realized something powerful. You can't rebuild your life while hiding from your story. So she stopped pretending. She stopped apologizing just to please people. And instead, she started talking, openly, honestly, and without filters, about her fall from fame. She launched a new YouTube series called Falling Forward. The concept was simple but real. Conversations with people who had faced public failure, celebrities, entrepreneurs, athletes, and even everyday people who had been shamed, canceled, or forgotten. Emily didn't just interview them, she connected with them. She knew what that pain felt like, and that made every episode hit harder. At first, almost nobody watched. A few hundred views here, a couple of kind comments there. The algorithm wasn't doing her any favors. But Emily didn't quit this time. She showed up every week, talking about resilience, loss, and the messy process of rebuilding a life when the world has already written you off. Slowly, people started listening. Viewers wrote in saying her words gave them hope. Some said they cried watching her episodes. Others thanked her for being honest in a world where everyone pretended to be perfect. Her tone changed, too. She no longer cracked jokes for cheap laughs. She spoke from her scars. Her vulnerability became her superpower. Then, one day, Emily decided to share the story she had kept secret: her meeting with President Donald Trump. She didn't tell it to gain sympathy or make a political statement. She told it because it was real, because sometimes kindness comes from the most unexpected places. That episode went viral. Millions of views poured in within days. News outlets covered it, podcasts debated it, and social media exploded with mixed reactions. Some praised her courage, others called it redemption. A few even accused her of fabricating it. But Emily didn't care. For the first time in years, she wasn't being seen for her mistake. She was being seen for her truth. Months passed. The world moved on, but Emily's life was slowly transforming in ways she never could have imagined. Her YouTube show, Falling Forward, was growing faster than she'd ever dreamed. Each episode drew in more viewers, not because of controversy or shock value, but because people finally saw her heart. She was no longer the woman defined by a single mistake. She was a storyteller, a listener, a survivor. But even with all her success, she sometimes wondered if President Donald Trump ever saw what she'd done with the advice he gave her, if he'd noticed how she had turned her pain into purpose. Then, one quiet morning, as sunlight poured through her window, Emily opened her mailbox and froze. Inside was a thick white envelope with no return address, but the handwriting was bold, confident, unmistakable. Her heart skipped a beat as she tore it open. Inside, on crisp stationery, were just a few handwritten lines. Proud of how you turned it around. Keep telling your story. America needs people with guts. Donald J. Trump Emily sat at her kitchen table, staring at the letter, her hands trembling slightly. There were no cameras, no lights, no audience, just her, alone with the words that somehow carried the weight of her entire journey. It wasn't about politics. It wasn't about redemption in the public eye. It was about humanity, about two people who had once been on opposite sides of a joke, now connected by something much deeper. Respect. Tears welled in her eyes as she folded the letter car, carefully placing it inside a small box on her bookshelf. That note, for her, wasn't just a message. It was a reminder that people can surprise you, that kindness can come from the most unexpected places. That day, Emily realized something powerful. Mockery doesn't destroy people. Silence does. The moment she stopped hiding, she started living again. Today, Falling Forward has millions of loyal subscribers. Emily interviews comedians, athletes, politicians, anyone who's ever been torn down and fought their way back. Her message is simple but profound. Everyone deserves a second chance, and whenever someone asks her what changed her life, she smiles softly and says, "The man I mocked taught me how to rise again."